agree with Alan Greenspan, we ought to just eliminate the debt ceiling. Oh, absolutely. We do.
The ability of almost every working American to access more credit than they should have been able to masked the underlying fact that lower and middle class incomes were not rising.
That's not a tenable strategy. Isn't now the time to eliminate it? Oh, we've been talking a long time ago.
Let's put aside terrorism. Let's talk only about our own homegrown animals that are patrolling America right now. So it goes down to the simplest thing. Be prepared, be vigilant.
So it has been said throughout history that a nation can be judged, its progress can be judged on how it treats its animals. Most popularly, Mahatma Gandhi said that, right? In his battle for peace. I'd like to amend it after what's happened in California with the Pentagon asking veterans to return their sign-on bonuses. Oh, yes. Yes, this is an old story now. It's nearly 5 days old, but I'd like to say that a nation's progress is judged on how it treats its warriors. Can I go that way? Can we go that way? Because the VA is a bad enough story. It's a bad enough situation. The VA scandal, which has been brushed under the rug, you never hear about it anymore. The shootings, right? The Nidal Hassans, the disarming of our soldiers on their bases. The nation's progress should be judged by how it treats its warriors, how it treats the people who fight for the very freedoms that it aspires to give to the rest of the world. A nation should be judged on how its progress should be judged on how it treats its warriors. And now this has reached such a low that it's hard for me to stomach. It really is hard for me to even stomach this idea that the California National Guard, these brave men and women who went to Iraq when requested, they were given sign-on bonuses to come do a job. $10,000 and up on these bonuses. You know, this is early 2000s, 2008, I think was the starting gate of these sign-on bonuses, and I remember them well. Because those sign-on bonuses weren't just unique to the California state, but Pentagon issuing a little didgeridoo, what is it? We need the signing bonuses back. We need them back. You have to get, no, not only do we need them back, not only would it be kind of nice if we had them back, you have to give them back. You have to give them back, and we're going to garnish your wages. And there's going to be interest. Now, these are not soldiers who didn't go to war. No. These are soldiers who went to war and brought the scars of war home with them. They didn't take the bonus and then run off and go AWOL. They didn't chicken out. No, these are men and women. These are warriors who made it to and from. And I don't care about anything else. You understand? I don't care about any more details other than that. I know there are people from the government side of things. I don't care about maybe we shouldn't have wrote that check. We didn't mean to say 10,000. We meant 1,000. They should have returned the money. I don't know what the details are. I don't care. The fact is, these people signed on to do a job. They thought they were going to be paid such. This is a massive scandal. This is a massive issue right here. I can't even figure out how there aren't hordes of veterans climbing the White House walls right now or the Capitol building, spray painting the American flag over the Capitol building. It's an amazing thing. It's amazing. With interest, garnishing wages of soldiers who came out probably wounded or maybe even mentally wounded. Who knows? But this is the scenario here. This is the sick scenario. Of all the funding that we give out, of all the billions that we give to Africa, of all the money that goes to welfare, all the money that goes to the hordes of illegal aliens pouring into this nation. They come into this nation, they get the health care, they get the food stamps, they get the whole nine. right? They get everything. And our government, our terrifyingly monstrous government, can't just eat. You can't eat this? What is it, a couple $1,000,000? What is it? How much? What's the grand total that they're torturing these soldiers over? These already tortured souls. What's the grand total? 2 million? 3 million? What is it? Is it 10 million? Is it $10 million that they're going after? We owe 21 trillion. We owe $21 trillion. What in the fuck are you hunting down these warriors for? Garnishing wages, adding interest. There are soldiers out there who have to refinance their home to pay back this despotic government. They are refinancing their home using money that should go to kids' college or money that, whatever. Refinancing their home to pay off the government, who already sent them into the blades of war and told them that these bonuses would be for, these are your bonuses. Thank you for your, it's insanity. It's insanity at a level that I have never seen. To a group of people that I can't even imagine why you wouldn't just eat it. Why you wouldn't just say, oh, somebody made a mistake. If that's the case, somebody made a mistake. Oh, well. We've been so terrible to the VA. We've been so terrible to the veterans that, you know what? We should probably let this one slide. But no, the Pentagon, who starved for money, right? Nobody's got enough money. Nobody's got enough money, so we've got to go chase after these poor people. It's terrible. This is terrifying. If I had the audience and the capability, I'd raise all this money and pay these debts off. I'd raise all this money off and pay these debts off in a heartbeat, and these soldiers wouldn't even have to think about it. That's it. And then I'd get a lawyer. I'd get a lawyer to take a look at what's happening right now, if I had the audience and the money. And hopefully one day I will. And hopefully one day I will have the money to attack these thieves, these thieving monsters who would do this to people who've been through the wood chipper of war already. Who knows what scars they brought home? You know, you can't put a dollar value on a lost leg. 10,000 doesn't do it. And now you want that money back, you rotten. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine how these people sleep at night. I can't imagine. How they look their children and their grandchildren in the face and hug them and kiss them and pretend to be human. How could you pretend to be a human being when you're actually a slithering little reptile? A little monstrous little cold-blooded creature who's going to take so many families who probably are just getting on their feet and rattle them again. You're going to rattle them again. Over what? 5 million? 10 million? What is it? What are you saving? What are you saving? What is happening at the Pentagon that this is going to make or break anything? We're talking about the Pentagon. But it's a product of the administration, man. I apologize. I'm a little sniffly. I'm a little cold. I got a little cold thing going on, so I may be a little nasal tonight. But this is a product of an administration that is our first president of a mixed race. And he, rather than bring in the great people of the black race, rather than remark on some of the great music and some of the great discoveries and inventions, he brings in the lowest order. He brings in the BET crew. He brings in people and jokes about twerking and dancing to music. Why wouldn't we show the highlights of the African American history in America? Why wouldn't we show the brilliant African Americans in business today, changing the world in science? Why wouldn't we show them? Why would we bring Usher out? Why? Why would the first president of mixed race do a thing like that? I can't understand it. He had all the power in the world. He had all, literally, you could say that, like metaphorically about a lot of people. But Barack Obama had all the power in the world to lift the veil on a portion of the black community that is stellar and is successful and is making it And it's not defaming women to do so. It's not talking about selling drugs to do so. And that's the great hypocrisy that we're all sick of, right? Barack has a little party with the BET folks over there, various artists, hip-hop, R&B, and don't get me wrong, I listen to it. I enjoy it. But I'm not on a mission. I'm not on a moral quandary mission to save any one race, to save any one gender. Him and his crew, that's what they live on. They live on this idea. Oh, the poor women. Oh, the poor minorities. They'll never get ahead because of mean white people. And that's his mission. So why then do you bring out these losers? Why then do you bring out these people? You know, you've got Donald Trump hung from a cross. He's hanging from a cross on a daily basis about the defamation of women in his comments. He's made these terrible comments about women, and he said these things. And he's just, he's just so misogynistic. And then you bring Jay-Z into the White House. Then you bring Beyonce into the White House. You bring these people into the White House. Rappers, rap stars, who write the most abhorrent lyrics towards women. So which game are you on here? Which side are you fighting for here? I can't figure it out. I have to understand what the goal is. On one hand, you say, we need to empower women. We need to make sure that women are getting paid fair wages. We need to take care of women. We need to do this for women. And then you bring people into the White House and you have these shows where it's just men that are just parading women around like toys, talking about them in ways that you couldn't even imagine. So what is the goal here? What is the game? What is the game? Meanwhile, he says nothing about the veterans, right? He's partying it up, twerking it up, out there on the dance floor, smiling, in his glory, right? In his glory that he's showing the people who are looking to him for such guidance. He's showing the youth, this is what it means. This is what it means to be black. Even though he's mixed. This is what it means. But that's not what it means. From what I've come to know. There are incredible people out there doing amazing things. Amazing things that don't involve microphones and half-naked women. But you never hear about them. You never hear from them. Most of the time they come out and speak a little bit and get shut up, silenced. Because they don't fit the narrative. All the while, the women are being debased and defamed and bitched this and bitched that. And I have to get an earful about inequality. Every award show is, it's inequality. Inequality in the women, and they need to make a lot of money, and it's inequality, and it's unequal. And then our very president brings in people who spout the same stuff. Who debases women to a level like never known in the history of music. I'm just saying, listen. I listen to it. I listen to some rap. I listen to a lot of R&B. But guess what? I'm not telling you that there's something wrong with America. I'm not telling you that there's an issue with women. I'm not telling you that you need to change something. You need to do something. You need to believe in something. You need to be for something. You need to help. You need to this. You need to that. And then you come out and hang out with guys who defame women, debase women like you've never heard ever in the history of the world.
There's a moon out tonight. Let's go strolling. There's a girl in my heart.
So on the lighter side of things, November 2nd, the book drops. The ebook drops. It's available for pre-order right now. Very simple title, Survive a Mass Shooting. Very simple content, how to survive a mass shooting. To the best of your ability when dealing with an unpredictable situation like an active shooter, like these mass shootings that we see cropping up all over the nation constantly. Now, I do want to put this thing into context for you and just why is this book? Why did I write this book? Why did this book come to be? It's because people are terrorized. They're terrorized and they're terrified, right? They're terrorized and terrified of the life that they lead. And here we are. I had an incredible conversation with a Christian woman over Facebook the other day, too, that we're going to talk about either on this show or on the Wednesday live show. We're going to be talking about fall preservation on the Wednesday live show as well. Really good show. The chef in me will be out to play, which is always good. So people are terrified and terrorized. And I talked to a Christian woman, and we were going a little bit back and forth about some of the things that I talk about, because I like to see Christians standing up for their beliefs. I really do. I think it's been a long time since the Crusades, and nobody wants to see it go back to that, but I think we need to cheat back at least to the center a little bit, right? I think we need the Christian majority to speak their mind a little more, and I like when I hear from people and they're fighting for their faith. I like that. I don't want to see anybody roll over. I don't want people to put their beliefs, up my nose either, but still, I can appreciate it. I can definitely appreciate it. Now, that said, the conversation went on, and we wound up talking about the fact that we are going into some of the holiest days of the year, right? The most holy days of the year are coming, and they're coming quickly. The holidays, things like that. And I think it's very important that we enjoy these holy days in America. We are a Christian nation. There's no reason why we should feel bad. We shouldn't feel bad about Thanksgiving. We shouldn't feel bad about December, or about Christmas rather. Moreover, we shouldn't be afraid to go out and shop and to go out and be with family in public locations, in malls, in bars, in restaurants. This is the type of fear that, of course, terrorists try to incite, and I think for some people it's working. So I sat down and thought about that and said, everyone should be privy to this information. It is accessible for the most part. Pieces of this book are derived from information that is available free at FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security active shooter pages. I'm not, I took it and put a spin on it and used the same information that I trained my coworkers on with this topic. Now, that said, there's a lot more in the book also that is not included in those websites. But to put it into context, here's the thing. I didn't get an advance for this book, right? I am self-publishing this book. There's no big money coming my way. I'm not putting this book out to make a ton of money. If you want me to break the numbers down for you, just so you know, this isn't a ploy to make money off of people's fears, because I hate that. It's about, I have information that I think you guys need, and I can get it to you cheap through Amazon. And cover costs of what it takes to market a book, so that most people get it and it gets reviewed by a few very big names. Yada yada yada. And of course the joy of writing too. Let me not say that I didn't enjoy writing, and I enjoy writing. I do it a lot now. Freelance writing it's taking over. It's taking over my life. I mean, I'm quickly becoming a paid writer, and I can't imagine, I really do see about in a year's time, I'll probably be writing freelance full time, just because the work is there and the people enjoy my content, and it's been a great thing thus far. Now, the book is going to be $2.99. Right, so the book is going to cost $2.99. It's going to ebook only. It's only 30 pages long. It's nothing extravagant. I'll probably reap about $2 off of that, maybe a little under $2. So let's say if I get on the high end, I'll sell about 500 books, right? Unless this thing takes off. But let's say on the high end, I sell 500 books. Okay, great. That's great for me, right? Hopefully it's shared. Hopefully people share it with the people, and maybe it sells more, maybe not, but we're talking about $1,000. The monster in Washington is going to take 30% of that right off the top. So I'm going to walk away with $600. I'm not a millionaire, I'm not a rich guy by any means, but $600 is not a lot of money, guys. Okay, this is not a motive to put out a book to scare people. So I just want you to understand that this wasn't some big campaign to sort of drive up money and income. It's coming from a place where I understand people need this knowledge. They need it. They have to have it. It's part of that training that Americans need in this new 2016. November 2nd, 2016, just before the election, just before the holidays, get yourself educated. There are very real steps that you can take to protect yourself in one of these situations. You know, the first chapter that opens up the book, the first chapter, you know, the intro is a little something different that I think you'll enjoy, but the first chapter in the book is about situational awareness. And it's about how nobody's perfect and about how sometimes you miss things. And there's a great story in there about something that I missed that had been right in my face for many years. I did some graphic work in there, rather. There's some cool graphics in there. There's a good collection of ideas and checklists for you to follow, both at work and at home, and in you know, your private life when you're out and about. And this is very important to me, guys. You know, because at the core of what I do, I'm looking to better America, right? That's what I'm doing here. That's what I am doing here. I have a passion for this country. I have a passion for the American family, more so than anything. And nothing rips me apart more than one of those people go missing at the hands of a bloody monster, right? At the bloody hands of a monster, a family is shattered. You know, we talk a lot in these prepper and survivalists and self-reliance and whatever, end of the world as we know it, communities and groups. And we talk about preparing for that great event, that great apocalypse. The apocalypse is coming. It's coming on through the economic collapse or through the, you know, whatever, martial law. And we talk about these events where life is changed drastically for everyone. But I always like you guys to think about your own personal apocalypse. You know, when you're in the mall and you're out with your family and you get caught in the crossfire of something crazy like this, you know, you get caught in the crossfire of one of these maniacs with a gun and you lose a loved one, or your loved ones lose you. Then let me tell you something, that is the end of the world as they know it. It's the end of the world as you know it. That's it. You lose your wife, you lose your husband, you lose a child. That's the end of the world as you know it. It doesn't have to be this big, giant, worldwide situation. No. You've got 100 years on the planet, and you've had someone stolen from you. So get informed. All right, that's all. That's all there is to it. The MANquation, the MANquation. I got home yesterday. The wife taking the kids to swim class and to the gym, and I opted out. I opted out because I had things to do at home and things I had to get caught up on. I've got an injured chicken. We started out with, what, 6? Was it 6? 5? No, 6. Yeah, we started out with 6. 6 chicks. 4 of them turned into to roosters, rather. 4 of them grew up to become boys. And unfortunately for them, I'm not allowed to have roosters in the city limits. So, no big deal. I ate them. And actually my sister's dog ate one too. That was pretty funny. As if it was the last one. And to be honest with you, I was getting tired of bleeding roosters out in my backyard, hanging from trees, you know, slitting the throat and all that. And then, you know, plucking the feather, cut out the whole thing. It's a little different, you know, when you're dealing with birds. I don't know why. Birds that you see every day, birds that you feed. So I've got one last hanger on. right? I only wound up with 2 girls. One got attacked by some predator we weren't sure about, killed her. I'm watching Meat Eater on Netflix the other night because it's on the Steven Ranella show. I'm watching, and he's in the high plains, like the high desert in Arizona, hunting pronghorn or black-tailed deer, something like that. And I'm watching the show, and he's in there, and he's talking, you know, up in these mountains, and I hear a bird in the background. I'm like, God, why didn't they edit that bird noise out? And I said, you know what? That's probably one of my damn chickens. And I run outside, and this mother whoring raccoon has my little chicken by the neck, man, and just dragging her right through the yard. So I scream at the thing, and I run and get the BB gun, chase it up the tree. I took a shot. I don't know if I hit it or not, but just out of anger. And to be honest with you, I could have killed her on the spot, but I don't know. I'm nursing her back. And these last 4 days, I've been nursing her back. She hasn't eaten. She hasn't drank. But yesterday, while I was home by myself, I did have a breakthrough. She drank some water. I gave her some milk. She drank some milk. She's got some damage. I mean, there's a good... She's about 25% chance of making it, you know. But I'm going to stick with her. We're going to see how it all goes. I'm going to stick with her. Give her a few more days. If it doesn't improve, I'm not going to let her suffer. So I nursed her for about an hour, and then I put the heavy bag gloves on and went to town. I went to town on the kickboxing bag, and in between rounds, I cut wood. You know, so in other words, nothing big, no 5-minute rounds, but 3-minute rounds, and then in between, to catch my breath, I was just splitting some wood that had fallen in the backyard. And I was feeling very manly. You know, I'm not a guy who was born to do the type of things that I do. You got to understand that. I wasn't this kid who grew up playing football and shooting guns, and I was very different than the man I am today. But I started thinking about the MANquation and the MANquation. And I started thinking to myself, okay, in a society dependent on safety and security, right? So one part of the equation is the quantity of safety and security, right? And the population of men. It takes a certain amount of, I don't want to call them real men, but it's kind of what they are. I don't know. And not to be defined by musculature or height or weight or anything like that. When I say a real man, I'm talking about a man who takes on the responsibilities of a man, works every day, raises a family. A good man who raises a family, works for a living, does these things that a man does. Presents, I guess the key of it is a man who presents himself as a man to a child who's growing up and watching him. And what the MANquotient or the MANquation really set in stone for me is that civilization needs a certain amount of these men. All throughout history, you can put this together in your head, but just because we live in America and we have freedom, we have liberty, and yada, yada, yada. A civilization can only sustain enough deadbeats. Only a certain amount of deadbeat men can be sustained or can be absorbed into a civilization before sustainability becomes a question, right? So if every man were to be a runaround loser who hangs out on the beach and smokes pot and then he surfs for a living, goes from home to home and, whatever. Oh no, what's going on here? The fire at my favorite barber shop. What in the hell is going on? Tim Kane's barber going up in flames. I went to get my hair cut at Tim Kane's barber again. I love it. It's the best. The Middle Eastern women, they do a great job. But anyway, back to the MANquation. So there can only be a certain amount of deadbeats in a society, and that has to be offset by a certain amount of men who are willing to be and represent and show themselves to be men to the next generation. The next generation has to understand their options, in other words. There has to be a certain amount of men who raise children and who are responsible and who live by a code of ethics and morality. so that the next generation can understand that. And you see it in action. We're teeter-tottering now. We're teeter-tottering. There's a lot of men out there doing the right thing, a lot of dads, a lot of husbands sticking around, sticking it out. These men have to be in their children's lives, right? There has to be a certain segment of kids who have mom and dad in their life in order for society to work. You see it now more than ever, right? We have, and all this is predicated, especially on the level of safety and security in that civilization. Right? So you go back to the 50s. Back to the 50s when dads were like iron, right? You couldn't even hug them. If you hugged them, they would punch you in the nose or something to that effect. It was a very unstable time, right? We had the Soviet Union coming out of World War II, that whole thing. But as the safety and security of the nation increased, you see more and more people taking other routes, right? Leaving homes, leaving families, leaving children behind. I'm an artist. I don't need a wife. I don't want a family. I'm a speculator. So, again, I do believe that there's a certain limit, you know what I mean, to how much a society can absorb of men who don't want to do what men do. In other words, like think of the manhood fulcrum. The fulcrum of manhood, right? And there has to be a certain amount of men who do the right thing. A certain amount of men who do the right thing in order to sustain the society, right? To give birth to the next generation and make sure the next generation don't turn into a bunch of losers. And then there can be another section of men based on safety and security and based on the pool of men who are doing the right thing. And those men are allowed to do whatever they want. They want to live with mom till they're 40, that's fine. They want to Bernie Sanders it, not work till they're 50, that's okay. But that's the MANquation. That's the man quotient that has been running around in my head. There just has to be a certain amount of men who do the right thing. That's up to you, whether or not you want to do that or not. That's your choice, of course. But there are consequences. There are very real consequences. I think a society begins to collapse when we see the fulcrum start to go the other way. So if we start to see the fulcrum bend away from the responsible man, which you could argue it has, I think crazy things start to happen. I think we start to go down a hill that's filled with jagged rocks and mishaps. I think you have children born without the father's influence, children raised without the help of both parents. Can be a struggle. It can be a struggle. And it's even harder then for that child to raise kids of their own, I think. Well, I've seen it go two ways. I've seen people come from broken homes who say, you know what, I'm never going to raise a child that way. And sometimes it works out. So that's my MANquation and my MANquation. And I took that on, like I said, while I was out back just splitting wood. I enjoy an axe. You got to understand, I enjoy an axe. I could buy a mauler or whatever, a machine that splits wood, and I enjoy the hickory. All right? I really do. I mean, it's not a chore for me. It really is not a chore for me. I enjoy it. I go out there, you size it up. Being able to swing an axe, it's one of those things I just like it. I like it. I like having a good quality axe, and I like splitting wood. It's a fulfilling thing, especially come winter. Come winter time, you go out there. It's good to have wood. If you have a fireplace, it's good to burn the wood. But it's just like hunting. It's just like hunting. It's just like fishing. It's just like fly fishing. It's the same sort of idea, right? I go out there and I split my own wood. And then when the winter comes, well, first of all, the winter comes and I know, okay, all this wood I split. I did this. This is all me. This is all my energy here. My time and my energy went into this wood, and now it's heating the house, keeping my family warm. It's also a powerful thing for your kids to see and wrap their heads around. Like, oh, okay, I get this. This makes perfect sense. This tree fell down. My daddy went out back and cut it up with his chainsaw, and then he split it, and then he let it season, and then he brought it in the house and burned it. And it warmed me. And that's a daddy. That's what a daddy does. What's wrong with that? You know, in the PC society, I hear people cringing already. Ooh, I don't do that. I'm a daddy. Does that make me less of a daddy just because you say that's what daddies do? No, it's not what I'm getting at. I'm not discrediting anybody. I'm just telling you what kids see and what kids absorb. You know what I mean? They see daddy do these things and provide and all that. And that stays with them for a very long time, probably for a lifetime. Right? Yeah, I remember every fall my father was chopping wood. I remember every spring my father was whatever. The MANquation. And like I said, it's like hunting. The meat that you earn always tastes better than the meat that you buy. Like fly fishing, the fish that you catch on the plastic worm doesn't feel as good as the giant fish that you catch on the clouds or minnow you tied, or your father tied, or your son tied. These things are, you know, it's just part of the game. It's just all part of the game. The MANquation. So the night bled into the day. You know, it was like a spilled inkwell on the sky, starting at the horizon. And I was walking the dogs after my workout and after I cut the wood up. Took the dogs for a walk, my two beautiful pit bulls, because they're relying on me as well. You know, they're like, come on, Dad, what's up? I have a sizable backyard, but they want to get out. They want to smell. They want to sniff. That's what they want. And I get that. And I'm watching the night take over. You know, it's cloaking the day. And I came to the realization of what the core difference is, and what the most important and exciting thing is to a man who has aspirations and dreams. You know, if you're out there and you're listening, you're married, you have a husband, we all have aspirations and dreams. We all do. You know, we're all hunters, right? That's what we do. This idea that dad sits at home every night and is with the family it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea, because we're built for going out and finding and doing and hunting and providing and all that. And when we have those nights like the night I had last night, it's so rewarding. It's so powerful to achieve and to accomplish and to, you know, set things up for future. But I figured out the difference last night between the vacuum that's in a single man's heart and the difference of a man who is married with children and a beautiful wife like myself. And the whole is, when you get to do what you want, exactly what you want, no children, no nothing, right? I'm going to split this wood. I don't got to worry about a baby being over here and falling off of that. I don't got to worry about my other son jumping and falling and breaking. I don't got to worry about this or that, or, you know. You have that worry-free moment. You start to think to yourself, God, this is what it used to be like when I was single. I could do exactly what I wanted whenever I wanted. And while I was walking the dogs and the night was taking over, you know, it was getting dark, the lights were coming on. The lack of Halloween decorations in my neighborhood is disturbing, too, by the way. It really is. Like, come on, you monsters. What's the deal? You put an orange light bulb in your porch light or something. Give me something. So the night took over, and I'm walking back home, and I realized to myself, this is the difference. The void that exists in the single man, even though he gets to do everything he wants, it was clear to me at that moment. It was, I've achieved all this. I've accomplished all this tonight. It was a big night. I'm sitting there walking the dogs, and the warmth in my heart from the realization that the wife and kids are coming home. Now, on top of all of this, the kids are coming home, and they're coming to daddy. The wife is coming home. She's going to come to my embrace. And all of this, though as great as it may be, all of this means so much more when the family's coming home. When you know the family's coming home to you. When you know you might return to that house and the lights will be on and it'll be warm with love. That's the difference. For the single man, he gets to do what he wants, but he goes home to a house that's as frigid as you know, this fall night that I'm dealing with. And that's the difference. Those are the benefits. But I wanted to talk to you about the MANquation, because in societies there will always be, you know, different derivations of men. But the important thing is that we understand the importance of a certain segment of the population. And of course, it has to be dependent on the level of safety and security of that civilization. When safety and security is in question, that amount of men who do the right thing has to grow. Right? It can't go the other way. But in a normal society, and in our situation right now, that's just what it is. That's the MANquation. There has to be a certain amount of men who do the right thing, raise kids, get married, stay married, do the hard stuff, so that the next generation can prosper. So enough of the next generation can prosper. Because whether you know it or not, people have to have sex and raise kids right in order for this civilization to go on. I mean, that's how it works, right? That's procreation, that whole thing, until they get this test tube baby thing figured out. But I just wanted to talk about that, because the void in a man's heart is filled by his family. Accomplishment can take you only so far. You got to understand that. Right? Accomplishment will take you only so far. Success and dreams, and it's nothing. And you come to realize it when you hit those high notes in life, and then you are even more blessed to know, well, now on top of all this, my family's en route. Right? The family's coming to my side in any moment. And that's the greatness of what it is to be a married man, even in 2016. All right? Fall preservation. Wednesday show live 9 Eastern Standard Time at prepperbroadcasting.com. Don't miss it. Go to Amazon. Survive a Mass Shooting. Buy the book. Pre-order the book. Buy one for your mother. Buy one for your niece. It's very important information. And stop being afraid, man. This is our nation.